guys, how are you? It is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. It is great to be with you tonight, Thursday, January 18th, 2024. Thank you so very much for being here. And of course, a very big shout out to everyone because you know what? We have reached another milestone now with almost 140,000 downloads. We have 139,100 downloads, and we had a couple thousand downloads just yesterday. So really grateful for everything that you guys are doing. Please do remember to go to the QR code or believemeachieve.com for more of my amazing, inspiring creations so you can help me out. We can get TikTok eventually over a few thousand so that I can start streaming live right to TikTok. That's the only platform we're really not streaming live to. Whether you're here at 10 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock in the morning, 12 noon, 12 a.m., 3 a.m., 3 p.m., potato, it makes no difference. I really do appreciate that you've taken the time to be here. And I'm very fortunate to get some great guests to join us. As you know, I try not to have guests every night, but I like to have them kind of spattered in there a little bit so that's a little bit of variety. So I do want to thank you for being here. I want to get right into what our weekly master topic is. You guys probably already know, understanding the keys to your journey. And we talked about journey earlier when we started on Saturday and also Sunday. And we had a great discussion, as you guys know. Just the other day, we had a great discussion, which was about, the fact that people have disabilities and how we're overcoming them. I want to thank Daniel Hodges for being with me, who's also a lawyer. And it was great to have him on the show and to hear and to learn about his challenges, the fact that he's not able to see. So that was really interesting. And hopefully gives you guys some perspective. So here's our topic for tonight, which is the granular topic, more honed in from the master topic. And that is understanding brilliance, transformative insights for productive mindset. Series 3 means we're in the third year, show 3, episode number 6. So we're talking a lot about journey, right? What a journey is, why people take a journey. I think that's really important, but I want to get into something which is very important. And that is the fact that in order to have a journey, you have to figure out what the journey is about. And the one thing you do when you go on a journey is you do it to build a growth mindset. Now that seems pretty cool, doesn't it? So how do you build? That's a great question, guys. How do you build a growth mindset? So I think the best thing to understand is that you have to constantly be adapting a lifestyle where you're always wanting to learn more. Okay. You put the effort in, you embrace the challenges, you learn from mistakes and you get feedback. I think those are really important things, but a lot of people feel that if they're not the best right away, then, they have this like ego attitude. And so let's face it, everyone has to learn something. I'm learning things every day. You're learning things every day. And when we learn, it's like we're able to embrace it and then we're able to move forward. I think that is probably the best thing I can tell you. But embracing that mindset, ladies and gentlemen, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. So how do you do it? Well, to embrace growth means that you believe that you're always learning. And that's really the truth. If you believe you're always learning, you're always going to be a student of learning. You'll be the student and sometimes you'll be the teacher for someone else. But I think our whole life is about the philosophy that we need to keep learning no matter what it is. It could be learning about relationships. It could be learning about new skills. It could be learning maybe something very different. Like maybe it's learning not just a language, but maybe it's learning how to live life. And now that's a skill, but it's a little different because it's a skill that we have to develop. It's not one that we can just be given. It's not one somebody can teach us. It's one that we have to embrace and really sink our teeth into. So I call this build a growth mindset. This is one of the key things to having transformative insights for a productive mindset, because when you have a growth mindset, it's like you know that you want to be getting better. You want others to get better. You already know that. And when other people learn this whole concept that you can get better, and not that you can, but you will get better, it changes a big philosophy. Okay. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't quite get it. All right. Um, I think it's about the fact that a lot of people expect everything one way. And I think we have to be open to knowing that they actually can be a different way. That's probably the biggest thing I want to share with you. So the next thing when we talk about, brilliance and transformative insights for productive mindset is we have to understand that we have to improve our emotional intelligence. So this is a real tough one. So how do we improve, ladies and gentlemen, our emotional intelligence? Well, it's not something you just do, okay? But it's something you have to embrace here again. So one thing you can do to develop your emotional intelligence is to become more self-aware. Um, you know, Knowing what your emotions are, how do they affect you, and how do they affect others? Um, Learning how to regulate your emotions. Do you have impulsive reactions? Are you able to adapt to different ongoing changing circumstances? Are you aware of what's going on socially? Understanding, and we've talked about sympathizing, but empathizing is a little stronger. That's when you really put yourself in the other person's shoes and understand that, hey, I never realized it was like that. But you start to embrace it. So I think that's a really cool thing. And I know a lot of you are saying to me, hey, John, I've taken journeys before and I haven't gotten smarter. Well, every time you take a journey, I don't care if it's a trip for relaxation, if it's a trip for mental improvement, you have to make sure the trip is going to improve your life in some way, shape, or form. You take a trip, you might say, well, gee, I'm just going to go to relax. Well, it's going to improve your mental well being, right? But it's also going to add some details or information to your life that you maybe didn't know about. Maybe you decide to take a trip to what's the most popular, let's say the most popular volcano tourist attraction. So there are 10 places that have like the best volcanoes, they claim. One is Japan. And that's Kumamoto. There is one in it's the Areno volcano in Costa Rica. There is the um, there is the there is the one. It's the volcano. It's in Iceland. Thurnigature. That's a pretty hard one to say. There's one in Italy, Mount Etna. Okay. There is Hawaii. Okay. And there is, it's actually Mauna Kea in the national park. There is in Indonesia, there's Krakatu. Okay. There in Guatemala is Vujillo and Acatiano volcanoes. And in Suffering Hills, there is the Montserrat area. In Washington State, there is Mount St. Helen. Okay. So I think when we start to understand that we're part of the bigger picture, thank you so much for the love. I really do appreciate that. That means a lot to me. Toxic's love. I really appreciate listening to all your great feedback on Facebook and all your truth. This lady's very amazing. She's on Facebook, Toxic Seeds of Doubt, and she really, she puts truth out there, and I just applaud people that do that. And she's just great to read her stuff and her comments, and she just tells you the truth. So really, thank you very much for sharing that with us. So when we start to realize that we're part of a bigger picture, that picture is not just us, it's more than us. But sometimes it gets challenging. And we don't know, I should say, how to go about what we want to do. And the reason this is because we get worried, we get scared. I mean, it happens to all of us. Um, you know, there are things that I feel we go through, but they always say that whatever we're handed, we can handle it because, you know, that's something that we're able to undertake. We just have to have faith and believe we can. You need to develop mental toughness. Oh boy. So how do you develop mental toughness? This is a real challenging one. Mental toughness is an easy word to say, but it's more than that. How do you become mentally strong? Well, you have to have a positive attitude, right? So you have to really guard your mind. There was a great song out. I think it was by, I think it was Tom Hopkins. As you know, it was about guard your mind, and it was really amazing. Visualization. They say goal setting. I like to say promise setting because I told you I'm not a big fan of goals because people don't always achieve their goals. Attentional control, right? The 4 C's of mental toughness are really simple, ladies and gentlemen. Control, commitment, challenge, and confidence. So let me go through those a little more deeply. So 4 C's. Control is how you feel at the current moment. Are you in control of your life, your emotions, your sense of purpose, etc.? Your commitment, okay? Are you able to set those promises consistently and achieve them? Do you make it all the way through? Or do you just give up when it gets a little challenging, right? If you're on a low commitment scale, it indicates that you might find it difficult to set and prioritize those promises and adapt routines, okay? Challenges. This is when you face something. It could be a roadblock, but look at that roadblock as a blessing and learn from it so you don't get stopped by it next time. I'm going to share one with you guys. We're in the process of moving to a new location. We had been in our facility for a while. And not to mention any names or anything, but we had discovered the people that owned this building. They were people that were just about the dollar. They were just about the money. And they're the kind of people that if your rent is like 1 day late, they're already charging you a 10 or 15% late fee. What I learned is that these people have been extremely challenging. They've been rude and all that, but forget that for a moment. What I learned is that the way these people treat people is wrong. And it made me understand that when I'm getting to that point, and maybe I own a building or I'm a landlord, that I need to treat people with respect and not throw around money or try to boss people or just try to. He has like a board of attorneys, and basically, if you ask a question, they think you're trying to threaten them. So that tells me somebody that has an ego problem. And, they're the kind of people that if you park outside and the loading zone is for 22 minutes and you're 26 minutes, well, they're getting ready to tow you. So I say this to you because this one place I was at for about, it's going to be 5 years. And it had been extremely challenging being here because they just don't act like people. They act as though the only thing important to their life is money. And I think when that happens, forget the fact that nobody likes you, you unfortunately give a bad definition to a human being stance. And they can change it. I know they won't. But the one thing I say, and even as I'm leaving, I say to them is, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for helping me become a better version of myself and helping you become a better version of myself, learning what I should do and what I shouldn't do when I'm in a position similar to yours. And I think those hard lessons are challenging, but they're the ones that we're going to take with us our entire life. I'll give you another example. When I was in college going for my degree, and we had this professor, I'm not going to mention his name. I don't think he's even alive anymore. But I remember he would give us a project. And I think it was in my senior year. And he had given us a programming project. So we were working on the project. And the project he gave us, because everybody always says whenever he gives a project, it just ruins your social life because you can't go out. You don't have time for anything literally but eating and his class when he assigns these big projects. So he assigned us a project. I think it was basically a program to, um, calculate basically the bowlers' scores average and then the team's average. So it had to not only manage a database of the bowlers' names, um, the team, and then the league. So we had to basically give the average of the bowler, the average of the team, and then the average of the league that we're part. So that's a lot of information. We also had to store it in a file, but we were using something called a linked list. I'm not sure if you guys know what that is, and I'm going to give you a quick highlight of it. A linked list in programming is something that if you've never played around with it, well, once you learn it, you won't forget it. So a linked list, so there's two ways you can create variables in code. One, you can do it as static variables that gets set at compile time. And then there's dynamic variables that get set at runtime. So that means that the static variables, they get assigned their resources, and the allocation for them is all done at compile time. The other one is set at runtime. So if you need something, it automatically basically creates it. So one of the objects you use when you do runtime is use something called a linked list. So a linked list works by basically creating an area of memory, and when you're done with it, you release it. So it seems pretty straightforward. You create it, and you can then, it's basically called a link, or it's called a pointer. And so you then basically store your record. Your record can have arrays in it. And then what happens after you've done your work in the linked list, then you basically write it back to a file. So we have been given this project, and a lot of us were having this challenge. I think it was on, I think he gave us this project on, I think it might have been Wednesday or Thursday, because our class only met Mondays and Thursdays. So he gave us this project on Thursday, and, didn't figure it would really be a big deal. We had to have it turned in by Monday. I figured it'd be pretty straightforward. Had written many programs before. But unfortunately, this was different because every time I wrote the program, it crashed. And I checked the logic, I checked everything. And everything made exactly the right amount of sense. Okay, so it was not like I was doing something wrong, or so it appeared as I wasn't doing anything wrong. So I remember on a Sunday evening that week, so I've been working on it, obviously, that Thursday after dinner. Friday I didn't have a lot of classes. I think I had any actually as a senior, so I think I was able to just do that. And then Saturday I worked on it. Sunday I worked on it. And a lot of students had to go to like the lab. They called it the lab. We had something called the Sun Microsystems. You guys may or may not be familiar with that. And you had to go out to the lab, and that was a pain. So one of the things I did when I think I was a sophomore, I bought a computer. I still remember it to this day. The company that I bought it from, I don't know if they're still. I don't know if they're still in business today. But I'm gonna give you their name. Maybe they're still in business. Maybe they're not. Um, anyway, I'm gonna give you their name. They're called Deerfield Data Systems. And so Deerfield Data Systems was pretty interesting. Um, they they basically had discounts for school and things like that. I think it was I don't know if it was called Deerfield. They had Deerfield Solutions, but I don't think it was Deerfield Solution. I think it was Deerfield Data Systems. In I think it was in Connecticut. I remember it was in Connecticut. I do remember that. And so the thing that was interesting about this company is I don't think I don't actually think if I'm trying to remember their home company, actually, now I remember now, their home company was actually out of Massachusetts. Deerfield Data Systems, they were in Massachusetts. So yeah, so Deerfield Data Systems in in Massachusetts. So I don't think they're still in business anymore. But anyway, my point was that I got a computer, and at the time I had Borland software. You may or may not know what Borland software. So Borland, I had a Borland. Borland was the tool I used for basically doing all my different stuff, like for like doing all kinds of things. Like so, if I wanted to do like write a piece of software, I wanted to compile it, and Borland, it was Borland software, if I remember correctly. And so they were founded in 1983 by Niels Jensen, and I'm not sure if they are still in business yet. I think they got bought out. They're now part of a company called Open Text. And so they had things like, they had different things like application delivery. So anyway, I had the software, and I was able to write my code. At the time I was writing, I think it was in C and C plus, or was I think I might was C or C plus plus. And so what was happening is when I did this, I was able to do stuff right from home, from my dorm. I didn't have to go to the lab, so I could get a lot more extra sleep and time. So that was really cool. And that Sunday, I went to church, as I always do. And when I came back from church, um, I started playing with it some more. And about maybe another hour or two later, because I think church was over at it was at Conover Campus Center at school. And I think Mass was at 7:30. Mass was over like by 8:15, 8:30. So I walked back to my dorm. It was about, I don't know, let's say it was 7:30. So like I probably got back to my dorm by like about 8:30, 8:40. And so I went to the Hog's Nest to get like some pizza. Then I went back. So I think I got back home around maybe 9 o'clock by the time I finished eating. So I sat down again. I looked at everything, and suddenly it hit me. It hit me what I had been doing wrong. So every time I kept working on it, I was working on it, but I wasn't pulling away enough. This was the first time I pulled away for at least an hour because I've been working at it so long. The mistake that I made, I'll never make again. There apparently is a bug, or there was a bug, in the Microsoft and the Borland compiler. I think they fixed it, but I still don't trust them. That every time you create a linked list, the first thing you do whenever you create a variable, like a static variable, you initialize it. So makes pretty good sense. Well, when you create a dynamic list, it's already initialized, or it's supposed to be. Unfortunately, when I would go to call on this list and I would run it, it would crash immediately. Not when I wrote something to it, but when I tried to read it. So when I would do a search for like let's say a bowler or something, right? But remember, I couldn't even do that. I couldn't even load stuff in. So if my program, let's just say, was pulling stuff in and it was just writing the data in, I was good to go. But if I tried to read something and there was nothing, everything written to it, the program crashed. And I started realizing the bug. The bug was that when it was created, it was not null. Null is another word for basically zero. There was nothing in it. And so it was never initialized to be nil or null. Okay. So you basically can set a linked list to nil or basically to null. Okay. Null is very popular. Okay. And so it works by using a pointer. It's pretty straightforward. You basically have a head, and then the way it works is the head basically points to one. Let's call it one, whatever your object is. So it could be you basically have your one side, which is your data, and then you have your next. And in your data, you could create an array. You could create a record, whatever you want to create in there. So what was happening is I noticed that the values, because I was just looking at the debugger and I'm like, wait a minute, they're not null. And that's why it kept crashing on me. So the moral of the story is I learned a very, very big lesson, one I'll never do again. Anytime I write a program, I initialize everything, especially linked lists. Even if they fix them, I still don't trust them. You never read something unless it's initialized. So I wanted to share that with you. And, the thing a lot of people don't realize is that the most important thing, ladies and gentlemen, when we're talking about, building mental toughness is what? I'll tell you, it's confidence. Yes, you challenge yourself, but you got to believe you can do it. Henry Ford said this a long time. If you believe you can't, you're right. If you believe you can, you're also right. The last point that I want to talk about in regard to transforming insights for a productive mindset is to strengthen your willpower. Okay, so how do you strengthen your willpower? How do you do that? So it sounds pretty easy, but it takes some work. Some people will tell you to increase your sugar or glucose levels. That's one thing. You can try what they call purposeful self-distraction to make sure that you're working on the things you want to do so that you get away from things you don't want to do. Cognitive reframing. It's basically a talk therapy where you focus your feelings and behaviors on what you want instead of what you don't want. Display images of the promises that you want to achieve. Cultivate a meditation practice. Manage your stress. Choose promises that resonate with you and your core. Don't overdo it. Okay. Sometimes you might need help to build these habits. Ask for help. Hey guys, before I do say goodbye tonight, this has been amazing being with you. You know who I am by now? Of course you do. I'm C Morley, serial entrepreneur, and I am a podcast host and a podcast coach. And I am a specialist in helping businesses tell a story that leads them to growing and being more scalable and, of course, more profitable. Now, I typically do work with companies that bring in 10 million or more. And I love to help companies find their core truth story, whether they know it or they don't. They want me to help them find it, or they want me to exemplify the story they already know. But with me, it's all about truth. So if they don't know their story and I figure out what it is, I make sure it's the real truth about who they are. I hope you guys have a fantastic evening. Please go to the QR code there, believemeachieve.com. and help me build my TikTok following so we can eventually stream live from TikTok. Have yourself an amazing evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to catch you guys tomorrow when we wrap up, yes, this big master topic of the week. Understand the keys to your journey. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not on a journey, you're not learning, and you're definitely not living. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your night.